Good evening. This is CBC Windsor News live at 6, and I'm Jason Vio. Thanks so much for joining us. Here's what's making news tonight. The Ford Motor Company will start building its F-Series Super Duty pickup trucks in Oakville, and the local union says that will mean more than 100 new jobs right here in Windsor. And another senior staffer is suing the City of Windsor for wrongful dismissal. This time, the lawsuit alleges the termination was made for political reasons and in retaliation. The court documents also point to something unusual about how it was handled. We'll explain coming up. Plus, it's a project 7 years in the making. The historic streetcar has finally arrived at the Legacy Beacon location along the Riverfront. We begin tonight with big news for the local auto industry. The Ford Motor Company announced today it will be adding 150 new jobs to the Essex engine plant over the next 2 years. The workers will be producing V8 engines for the F-Series Super Duty pickup trucks. Ford will be building 100,000 of those trucks in Oakville every year starting sometime in 2026. The CBC Windsor's Dale Molnar has more.
The Super Duty pickups are top sellers for Ford, so Ford workers in Windsor are excited to hear the news that production is coming to Ontario.
It gives you job security, a sense of the company moving forward, along with all this EV going on, as well as combustion still, which is really good news for our plant as well. It means a lot for me with a young family. I have a young son.
Fact is that people need jobs, and with those jobs, people can buy groceries, buy houses, take care of their families. It's a good thing.
Which is exciting for us. We've got a lot of new hires that are coming in, and they're looking, to kind of make sure that they're going to have a secure future. It secures Ford Motor Company's footprint in the province of Ontario for many years to come.
It's a turn of fortunes for Ford workers in Oakville. In April, Ford announced that they were delaying the start of production of a new electric SUV at the Oakville plant. It would have replaced production of the Ford Edge that ceased in May, resulting in the loss of 3,200 jobs. Now the Super Duty trucks will bring back hope and work. The president of Unifor Local 200 says it will also mean jobs for workers involved in bringing in new machinery for the Essex engine plant.
And it's exciting news for not just Oakville, but for Windsor too, because the snowball effect, the trickle down, it's going to allow 150 more jobs in our community. And if Oakville gets bigger, we get bigger. So this is exciting.
Production on the Super Duty trucks will begin in 2026, a year earlier than what was planned for the electric SUV in Oakville. The union negotiated with the company to come up with a product sooner.
This really is a testament to the incredible work of our members at Oakville and in Windsor, to their skills and to the quality that they produce day in and day out. And Ford Motor Company recognized this.
Oakville will also produce the electrified version of the Super Duty, but Dagnolo believes there will still be demand for the gasoline-powered V8.
It could be a hybrid, which I would think more than likely it would be due to the fact that these heavy-duty trucks are doing a lot of pulling.
Payne says this is also good news for about 2,000 workers in the supply chain of the parts sector that were impacted by the loss of the Edge.
I expect that 30 to 35% of the supplier base for the Super Duty in manufacturing in Oakville will be Canadian.
The Oakville plant will employ about 1,800 people. The union also negotiated supplementary unemployment benefits for the workers during the changeover, so they'll be making 70% of their regular pay. This move represents a $500 million investment for Ford, part of an overall multi-billion-dollar expansion of the Super Duty line. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
The City of Windsor is facing its second wrongful dismissal lawsuit from a high-ranking municipal official in a matter of 4 months. Tom Hunt filed the claim this week and is seeking $2.8 million for wrongful dismissal and breach of contract. He's been the city planner for 25 years. The court documents allege humiliating treatment leading up to his termination last month and that it tarnished his reputation across the province. Hunt was given an 18-month termination notice, saying in the suit that it's an unusual way to part ways with senior staff. By comparison, the former city solicitor and former city engineer Chris Nepsey were fired in November, effective immediately. Nepsey is also suing the city for wrongful dismissal, pointing to a culture of corruption at City Hall. The city has denied those allegations and said they would defend themselves in court. Hunt is alleging his firing was made in bad faith for political reasons and in retaliation against him. Some of that, the lawsuit says, came from the office of Mayor Drew Dilkens. Hunt says the 18-month termination notice is uniquely humiliating and punitive working notice. During that time, he says his authority as a city planner was undermined. He was excluded from attending meetings he'd normally attend and not allowed to communicate with developers. None of these allegations have been proven in court. In an emailed statement today from the city, a spokesperson says, "We are aware of the statement of claim filed by Tom Hunt against the City of Windsor. The city denies all of the allegations and will defend itself accordingly. As this has now become a legal matter, we will refrain from further comment and allow the legal process to take its course." Now, the city has the opportunity to submit a statement of defense to address these allegations. You can read a lot more about what's inside the statement of claim on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. And a former Windsor City Councillor has been named in an $850,000 lawsuit. Jiwon Gill is being sued by the South Asian Centre of Windsor over his time as treasurer for the community organization. Our Dulcin Chen has more.
For 2 years, Jiwon Gill represented the residents of Ward 7 at Windsor City Council. He was also involved in the leadership of the South Asian Centre of Windsor. Now the center has filed a statement of claim against Gill and also against the organization's former president, Sushil Jain. That's after financial irregularities led to Jain being charged with fraud and other offenses. The law firm Strasbourg Sasso Sutz LLP has been hired for the suit.
We're not aware of any intentional wrongdoing on Mr. Gill's part, but he was treasurer, and prior to that, he served in a number of different roles as an officer of the South Asian Centre of Windsor. And the allegation is that Mr. Gill, as treasurer and in his capacity as an officer, was negligent in failing to protect the money of the South Asian Centre.
The nonprofit center is seeking $850,000 in damages from Jain and Gill. Earlier this year, Windsor police said their investigation found Jain put money that was intended for charity, more than $360,000, into personal bank accounts. The fraud allegedly took place over 12 years, from 2011 to 2023. Jain is being sued for alleged financial misconduct, and Gill is being sued for alleged negligence in his fiduciary duties. The organization's lawyer says the South Asian Centre of Windsor is demonstrating its responsibility to the community.
First of all, they're doing their utmost to recover money that was missing. And it's important to know that the current board, including the president, Dr. Backy, were not in any way involved in any of these financial irregularities under Sushil Jain's presidency. So they've brought the matter to the police. They're pursuing recovery. And furthermore, they've made a number of changes to the bylaws to ensure that these types of issues could never arise again.
Neither Jain nor Gill responded to CBC's request for comment about the lawsuit. Dulcin Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
It was a big day along the Windsor Riverfront. Nearly 7 years after the project was first approved, streetcar number 351 finally arrived at the Legacy Beacon site along the Detroit River. The restored streetcar was lifted into place by a massive crane, and Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens spoke with CBC about what the streetcar and the Legacy Beacon project will bring to Windsor's riverfront.
I'm here to see it because it's a special day. This is our new Legacy Beacon. It's more than just the trolley inside of an enclosure. This is a full patio with food service and washroom facilities along our beautiful waterfront. This is $1 million view. It's probably the best natural feature that we have as a city, yet people in the city have nowhere to go to sit and enjoy it with food service. So this is really an important project, a Legacy Beacon project. It's been in the planning process for the better part of 25 years through the Central Riverfront Implementation Plan, and we were able to incorporate part of Windsor's history with the streetcar that lets us celebrate the fact that we have long and storied transportation routes. We were the first community in Canada to have an electric streetcar system going back to 1886, and we were very lucky to be able to capture one of the 3 remaining cars that operated on the streets of Windsor and into Walkerville and out to Amherstburg that exist in the world. And that has been restored thanks to City Council, and now we found a permanent home, and today's a great day because it's the day the streetcar actually moves into the permanent home.
And speaking of our riverfront, our view of the Detroit skyline could soon look very different. Media reports across the river are indicating part of the Detroit iconic Renaissance Center may be demolished. Windsorites react to that possibility.
No, I wouldn't wish them to take it down because I feel like it's something that is attractive. You know, when you're this side and you see the other side, it's something that is mesmerizing. I wish they would leave it because it's really nice. Being this side and you see the other side, and it's something that brightens in the evening, like in the night. I wouldn't like it when they take it down.
It would definitely be a big change. It'd be something to get used to. Born and raised in Windsor, we do cross over to see family in the States a lot. It's just like a staple of our riverfront here. So it'd be sad to see them go if that does happen.
It's part of the reason why people want to come down. We, especially for the upstairs, we have that huge window where it's looking out to the Detroit skyline, and it's, part of the reason, part of the ambiance, and, people love it. I'm hoping that they would replace it if they're going to do it, regardless of what people think, that they're going to be putting up something just as beautiful, as what they have now. I mean, it's a staple, right? It's, part of the Detroit skyline and our riverfront, right?
Colette Kennedy joins us live now for a look at weather. Colette, speaking of the Renaissance Center, weather-wise, I mean, that building is so iconic. I've seen so many cool photos of sunsets and when the water is just calm, and it'd be really strange to see it without all of those towers there.
Yeah, I can completely agree with you on that, but we'll see what happens here. Let's just go ahead and take a look at what's going on with our conditions across not just our area, but across the country. And we're seeing that all the heat now is in the west, all right? So through the prairie provinces, taking a look at that in low 30s in Alberta and Saskatchewan, still mid-20s for Manitoba and even into northwestern Ontario. But you can see this cooler air that's been pooling, and I'm sure you felt it today in terms of the breeze coming from a more northerly direction and just the humidity levels really dipping down as well. So just a completely new air mass that has moved in, and a completely different feel to that as well. So here we go for a closer look. 19 in Goderich, yes, there's only teens there. We did make it actually to 22. We're at 21 now for Windsor, 21 for Chatham, Kent, and 20 for Sarnia. The morning low this morning was 16, but tonight's lows are actually going to be even cooler, so get ready for that coming up. And just to illustrate how low those dew points are now, so the humidex values, we're really not seeing much of a humidex, okay? You maybe bump it up 1 or 2, and that's about it from where the temperature is. There's the northerly flow to those winds. A little gusty at times, but otherwise the sustained winds will be backing off as we go through the overnight hours. And then just a little bit of this popcorn cloud that's kind of popped up through the afternoon hours. But right now we're getting into that sort of hovering around the international border and looking in closely. Lakeshore, Amherstburg, clear skies, Leamington, more, right on the line there for us towards Windsor. But really, this is a very dominant ridge of high pressure, this pattern that we're going into. So everything that's happening, any active weather, it's all on the outskirts, having to go around this ridge where we have sinking air and very stable conditions. What does that tell you? Clear skies, maybe a little cooler at night, but a lot of sunshine and very high UV index values through the day. And as far as cloud cover, it's going to be harder to find, and not just through the day Friday, through the day on Saturday as well. And then on Sunday, I'll bring in a little bit of variable cloud and a slim chance for an isolated shower or even a thunderstorm kind of bubbling up as the humidity starts to climb. But really, it's going to be dry and cool. Look at this tonight. Yeah, someone may even slip into a single digit through the overnight, and then we're going to warm up more tomorrow. 27, those winds change direction. And no worries, that heat will be back. It's going to be summertime again soon.
That's what we're expecting, Colette. The 30 on the weekend. That looks pretty nice to me. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Ceramic work of a Windsor artist has been recognized by a prestigious Toronto fair. Now, these are the creations of Jenny Santos. The 41-year-old just came back to Windsor earlier this year with her 2 kids and husband after spending most of her life in New York. Santos grew up here. She worked in art administration for many years. Her focus is now ceramics.
the pandemic kind of hit, and it kind of made me realize, oh, this desire to turn back to my roots, which is visual arts, and rediscovering clay, which I discovered a long time, and kind of coming back to that. And we decided it was such a crazy time that we wanted kind of part of a lot of people who wanted to have a new start. And I thought going back to Canada was part of it, and I have family here still, so. Yeah, I felt like it was time to maybe get back to my roots to making things again.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News Live at 6. What happens if you refuse to check your carry-on luggage at the gate? We'll hear the costly story of one Ontario couple after the break. Air travelers are often asked to allow their carry-on luggage to be moved to the cargo hold. Well, a Toronto area couple recently refused that request, and it turned out to be a costly decision. Sophia Harris explains.
Kalpana and Peru Kumanen packed their carry-on bags with valuable jewelry and medications they didn't want to part with on their flight from Toronto to Vancouver.
One of that is a painkiller for my wife.
But when they were about to board, they say a WestJet agent announced the plane had run out of carry-on space. So the couple had to check their bags. They refused.
I needed the medication on the plane. We did try to tell them there is valuables inside. Why don't you allow at least one baggage? They were not willing to listen.
Instead, WestJet banned the Cumanans from their round-trip flight. So they paid $2,000 to rebook last-minute tickets with Flair Airlines.
I was so mad on that day.
In an email, WestJet said the couple was refused transport due to behavior exhibited while boarding, and that it's common to request that carry-on items are checked when overhead space is limited. The case highlights a growing problem. Due to checked bag fees and fears of lost luggage, more passengers are traveling with carry-on.
The result is slower boarding processes and the fight for the valuable overhead bin space.
One solution some airlines have already adopted, charging for carry-on. Another remedy, enlarging overhead bin space, which United Airlines is doing. But some experts say the best solution is to crack down on oversized carry-on.
Airlines really have to manage and patrol and enforce those regulations, and it's the most brutal solution to the problem, but it works.
It's the right size.
Cumanan says the couple played by the rules as their luggage met WestJet's size limits. In response to a CBC inquiry, WestJet said the couple will be getting a refund for their missed flight. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Brampton, Ontario.
12 people have fallen ill after drinking plant-based milk contaminated with Listeria. 2 of those individuals, both in Ontario, have died. Now, the cases have been linked to Great Value brand almond milk, as well as Silk brand almond milk, coconut milk, almond coconut milk, and oat milk. Earlier this month, a nationwide recall was issued for products with best before dates up to and including October 4th. Danone, which produces the drinks, says the contaminated products were linked to a production line at a third-party manufacturer. For the first time ever, the top soldier in the Canadian Armed Forces is a woman. General Jenny Carignan has taken command as the new Chief of Defense Staff. She had been in charge of changing the military's culture after a sexual misconduct crisis. Now Carignan will face a staffing shortage, readiness issues, and aging equipment. The CBC's Ashley Burke has the story.
It's a new era.
À la fois le drapeau canadien et l'insigne des Forces armées canadiennes.
General Jenny Carignan making history, taking command of the Canadian Armed Forces.
You are the very first woman to ever become Chief of the Defense Staff, the very first in the G7 and in the G20. You are a role model for all Canadians and for the world.
After more than 3 decades in uniform,
our new Chief of the Defense Staff,
she's taking on the top job during a tumultuous time.
Today, I can say that I feel ready, poised, and supported.
Canada's outgoing top soldier delivering a serious warning.
Our military history is one of unpreparedness at the outset of war. 1914, 1939, 1950, 2001 are all stark examples. Let's not let that happen again. Urgency is required.
Urgency at a time when experts say the military is not prepared.
The military is in a state of crisis today.
Only 58% of the forces is ready to respond. Almost half the military's equipment isn't serviceable, and there's a massive shortfall in staff.
The crisis in military personnel, there are close to 6,000 positions to fill.
Carignan said her top priority is fixing recruitment and laid out a major commitment to counter threats from China and Russia.
I say we have about 5 years to get us close enough to be ready to counter those long-range type of threat.
It is momentous. For Canada's first female infantry officer, Carignan taking command broke part of the glass ceiling.
This is going to be a great symbol for young women that their hopes and dreams can happen.
That's not lost on Carignan.
I'm going to get a little bit emotional here. I've done this because I love it.
It's a job, she says, that comes with enormous responsibility.
I get now to lead these fantastic people in very difficult times. It's not going to be easy, folks. I'm telling you, there's nothing that is going to be easy going forward.
And the stakes going forward are high. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Still to come, we'll take a look at some of that aging Air Force equipment and how it may affect a popular air show. That story is next. The future of the Canadian Force's celebrated snowbirds is up in the air. The planes used by the Air Force aerobatics team have reached the end of their useful life, and there are safety concerns. And as the CBC's Murray Brewster tells us, the jets are just one item on a growing list of things the military needs to replace.
They have been part of summer in this country for more than half a century. Canada's Snowbird Squadron, flying 1960s-built training jets. A symbol of Canadian pride that's showing its age. CBC News has now learned the aircraft may be retired.
The reality is the Tudor plane is well past its utility. There are even some safety issues that are deeply concerning to me. And I've received assurances that through this flight season that they can manage those safety issues.
The federal government has been warned for decades the Snowbird jets need replacing. Internal reports in 2003 and 2016, obtained by CBC News, said keeping the jets flying presented significant risks. The Air Force recently ordered another upgrade that could keep them flying until 2030. Other Canadian Forces equipment is also rusting out. The Navy's minesweepers were built in the mid-1990s. Defense sources confirmed to CBC News that fleet is also on a list of ships and planes the military is looking at retiring soon. General Wayne Eyre, the country's outgoing chief of the defense staff, in an interview with CBC Radio, says some equipment is simply worn out.
As a capability ages out, there's a declining pool of spare parts to be able to keep it going.
We asked the Defense Department for a comprehensive list of what equipment might be retired. It did not respond. But this expert says the upcoming decision is a political problem for Ottawa.
Our allies are seeing that Canada is effectively reducing capabilities because it simply doesn't have the money, the political will, or the human resources.
Both the federal government and the military insist no decisions have been made. Last spring's federal budget set aside $1.9 billion to maintain older fleets. But it's clearly not enough. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The CBC is the official broadcaster for the Summer Olympic Games, and to celebrate, CBC Windsor has limited edition pins to commemorate Paris 2024, just like the one that I'm wearing right here. To get your own, we want to hear about your favorite Olympic memory over the years. You can text us at 519-984-2051 or email us at windsor@cbc.ca, and we'll draw the winners at random throughout the games. Well, that's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. For news at any time, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.